So maybe dear participants, if you can switch your video on, it will be always much comfortable, much more comfortable, much more friendly.
Yes.
You know, because otherwise to see a black screen is not really very comfortable. Okay, shall we start?
Yes.
Yes? Okay,
Yeah.
so I have to switch on your video. No? Hello, hello. Imagine, please, because otherwise you can imagine it's like I teach with my video off. Will not be very nice, no? It's exactly the same. Okay, I changed a bit my mind of what I want to do today. I will do a bit more theory today. Why? Because like this you will have more tools to prepare the case studies. And next Friday in a week, when I will be in Sligo, we will discuss the cases likely. And I think like this you have one more week to prepare. I will ask that you prepare the cases per group of 3 or 4 persons. Okay, you arrange yourself as you wish. Okay. And you have to send me your analysis. Like this, it's a way already to practice the topic, and it's already a way to learn. Okay, so I think it's what we name the inverted classes. Okay, so you have to. So I give you some material, and then you have to go deeper by yourself, and then we will discuss all the topics together. That's my added value, in fact. You know, to discuss with you the things that you that are more difficult for you, to make the links between the things that you haven't seen before, to discuss the cases, how to analyze a company from a financial point of view. So I think that these are the most important things that we can do together, and much more difficult to do alone. Okay?
Yeah.
Is it clear? Okay, let's move on. So we can start the recording.
Recording in progress.
And now I will share my screen. Okay. You see the PowerPoint?
Yes, I
Yes.
see.
Yes, you see. Yesterday, I ask you to discuss and interpret what is the EBIT about. What I will do, I will share you in groups randomly now. Okay. I let you 3 minutes to discuss, according to you, what is the EBIT, how you would interpret it, and why the finance people prefer to look at the EBIT instead of the net income. Okay. So you have to think about to discuss those questions. So first, define the speaker in your group, discuss, and per group, the speaker has to write, or the writer has to write in the chat the answers. Let's do like this? Yes? Okay, so you have, I let you 5 minutes. Okay? And then we discuss. You're with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. Let's start. Okay.
Dạ em chào anh Thịnh. Chào chị Lộc. Hello Thư.
Chào Lộc, chào Thư.
Hello anh chị.
Cái định nghĩa thì dễ ra, nhưng mà ý nghĩa tại sao người ta lại thích cái số EBIT hơn là cái số net? Chắc nhìn cho nó hấp dẫn hơn hả? Chứ trừ gì cả thì có vẻ nhìn nó hấp dẫn hơn. Mọi người có ý gì khác không?
Là lấy cái số đó so sánh thì nó chính xác hơn ta. Đó là để chức thuế nên là nó phản ánh chính xác cái tình hình kinh doanh hơn.
Với lại hình như là nó không tính tới mấy cái chi phí liên quan tới tax với lại interest, cho nên là nó sẽ không có tức là gọi là sao ta, khi mà mình tính cái lợi nhuận của công ty chạy ra từ cái operating expense thì nó sẽ không tính đến cái gánh nặng thuế mà doanh nghiệp nó phải trả. Em nghĩ vậy, không biết đúng không?
Cái này cũng không bao gồm cái depreciation đúng nhỉ? Đúng không? Không bao gồm đúng không? Depreciation là đã tính rồi đúng không? Chắc tính rồi. Chỉ gọi là interest and tax thôi.
Hay là tức là đã tính cái depreciation anh thì
Mình nghĩ là vậy. Mình nghĩ là vậy. Mọi người có định nghĩa nào khác không?
chắc là tính đúng không?
Đúng là EBITDA mới là có gồm cái depreciation rồi amortization gì đó nữa.
Là em biết là chưa tính luôn.
EBIT là tính rồi đấy chứ. EBIT là gồm tính rồi đấy chứ.
Cái interest là lãi vay hả anh chị? Lãi ngân
Đúng
hàng.
rồi, chi phí vốn gọi là chi phí lãi.
Cái đó thì tại sao lại bỏ ra không biết chứ. Thế thì bỏ ra cho nó phản ánh chính xác, chứ còn cái lãi thì cũng nên để cho ta, cái đó mình cũng phải trả.
Mấy cái đó mình đâu có hoàn được đâu hả?
Đúng
không? Mình đâu có hoàn
Dạ
được đâu.
đúng rồi.
Chắc là em chỉ phân vân để chắc là vẫn để coi cho nó phản ánh chính xác cái tình hình kinh doanh hơn.
Net income thì nó sẽ bao gồm luôn cả chi phí lãi vay với cả thuế nọ kia các thứ đúng không ta?
Đúng rồi. Net income là trừ
lãi ra mới ra được net income, trừ cái thuế.
Em không nhớ rõ câu hỏi của thầy là tại sao người ta lại prefer hơn, hay là câu hỏi của thầy là một số công ty người ta dùng vậy ta?
prefer
Sao
hơn.
em không
Prefer hơn.
prefer
Người
hơn?
ta prefer hơn.
Em
Cái thuế thì mình nghĩ tách ra thì nó hợp lý, còn cái interest thì gần như nó là chi phí vốn, mà phải gọi là phải trả rồi chứ. Còn thuế thì có thể là nó cái mức phần trăm mình chưa ý là nếu mà vốn chi phí vốn thì mình nghĩ ừ. Nghĩ.
đúng rồi.
Mình đồng ý với cái này hợp lý này. Còn cái lại thì sao? Cái lại nó cũng vậy luôn hả? Có thể là với
Tùy vào ngân hàng đúng không?
ưu đãi hả?
Ưu đãi và tùy vào chọn ngân hàng nữa.
Mình nghĩ giải thích của Lộc hợp lý á.
Còn cái gì nữa không ta? Ủa em biết là biết tắt.
Before interest and tax.
Thư bên công ty Thư không có báo cáo tài chính hả?
Hầu như em không có đọc báo cáo tài chính của công ty em luôn.
Nhưng mà lâu lâu công ty cũng phải báo cáo hàng năm chứ, ví dụ như là báo cáo kết quả kinh doanh của năm rồi chẳng hạn, 6 tháng năm như cũng phải có chứ nhỉ.
Dạ có, mà chỉ báo cáo là công ty đạt bao nhiêu, tăng trưởng bao nhiêu thôi.
Nhiều lúc cũng có nói đó, mà bà con cứ nghe là hỏi nghe thưởng bao nhiêu tháng mà chú ý chứ đâu có nghe em biết là cái gì đâu, quan tâm thưởng bao nhiêu tháng,
có đạt target không, thưởng nhiêu.
đây nên mình nghĩ là có nói hết đó, mà mấy cái từ kia nó mới ấn tượng.
Operating income.
Nếu để vậy là nó phản ánh đúng cái
trong định nghĩa thì nó còn ghi thêm một cái là cái đó là một cái số để xác định được cái khả năng của công ty có thể generate ra được profit như thế nào. Tức là công ty đó cái lợi nhuận nó có tính là profitable hay không, thì em nghĩ là chắc là thầy sẽ expect mình giải thích gì đó liên quan tới cái cash flow hôm qua, nhưng mà em chưa biết là trong thực tế nó như thế nào.
Này mình đại diện mình nói hay là mình gõ ta?
Chắc gõ, chị Lộc gõ giùm nữa không Lộc?
Chị Lộc gõ.
Ok. Dạ.
Rồi, cảm ơn Lộc.
Dạ, xin lỗi tim vào trễ nha, có gì mọi người hỗ trợ giùm. Dạ.
Ly room luôn rồi chị Quỳnh ơi.
Okay, so can you write now one person per group quickly, just in headlines.
Cái group nào tôi cũng không biết. Này tôi nó sẽ vì nó 10 năm.
Sorry, what happens? So if you speak at home, please switch off your microphone. Okay, so can you just write what are your thoughts? Quickly, please. We do not have time to lose.
Yes.
But if you can write just what are your thoughts?
Yes.
Recording in progress.
So EBIT is easier for investors to judge how well the business performance is between different firms because in each industry has different interest rate and different tax rates. Okay. Okay. Other ideas? Okay, different taxes, tax rate in countries, yes. And what is EBIT for you? How would you define, how would you explain what is EBIT? Okay. How would you define? Is the net, okay, I know, you give just a definition, group 4. What I would like, just from an intuitive way, intuition, okay, just the definition is this, plus this, minus this, minus this. Okay, so but my question now is how you would explain it. What is it for you, the EBIT? Now, you said to me, you gave me the explanation why it's more interesting than the net income, but then how you would, what is in intuitive way, okay, how you would define it? Yes, but now the question is, we are, what's the meaning of EBIT? I know, I understand. You do not take into account the interest into account. You do not take into account the taxation and so on. So this I understand now. But how you would explain it? Yes, I know, but I do not want the definition. The definition it's easy. Alors, earnings, yes.
Before interest.
I know that it's earnings before interest and taxes. When I ask you a question like this, I want, but you do not tell me what is the acronym or what is, it's this plus this minus this. I know, I can read. Huh? Want to see effectiveness, so including. What do you name but the real performance? So when I ask you a question like this, it's not just to say EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes. Okay, well, I know. Or it's a revenue minus the operating cost minus this, minus this. Okay, I can read on a piece of paper. But I want to have how you would explain in an easy way. Performance, so it's a measure of the performance. What is it for you, performance? If you do not answer, I do not answer. But that's the rule of the game. That's my façon de faire. It's my way of doing. Okay, if you do not contribute, I do not contribute either. Yes, but the financial performance is all the profits you got after the sales. Okay. Okay, and so for you, is it a good item? Are you comfortable with that item or not? Tam, can you put me again as the animator, because I lost. Yes, great, thank you. So yes, I know all this. You repeat yourself. But I do not. I ask you, what is the meaning of you for performance? You said no, it's a measure of the performance. It's a better one than the net income. Okay, we agree on this. But what is it, the performance for you now?
So this is profit calculation.
Okay, and are you satisfied, all of you? Are you satisfied with the operating earnings, the profit?
Not just operate. Yeah.
Well, I'll let you think. You have 1 week to sales earnings, yes, but
Not enough.
okay. The higher the EBIT, the better you are. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Okay. So when you have a positive EBIT, you are satisfied? You are happy with that? If I tell you the EBIT is, I don't know, $500,000, you are happy with that?
Not
It
really.
depends on.
It depends on the investment.
Okay, but let's assume you invested 100,000 and you have a 500,000 EBIT.
Very good.
EBIT is an indicator of happiness of shareholders. Interesting.
Happiness to share.
Okay, let's move on. I will explain you. I'll give you some views. What is interesting with the EBIT? I will share my screen. First of all, you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
What is interesting with the EBIT in comparison to the net income? Okay. So first, let's go to the positive aspects. It doesn't take into account the interest, so it doesn't take into account the financing aspect, the financing structure. Why? Because according to your financing structure, you will have more or less interest. So in fact, the EBIT is really what you get from the operations. From an accounting point of view, please have in mind, from an accounting point of view, independently from the financing structure, independently from the tax regime. But true, if you operate in Vietnam, in Belgium, in the US, wherever, you will be subject to different tax regime. And you do not take into account the extraordinary items. So you take only, from the accounting point of view, you take only the items linked to your core operations. So what is it? It's a measure of the accounting performance, not from the financial performance. I will explain the difference in 1 minute. Is the measure of the accounting performance independently from the financing structure, independently from the tax regime, and the extraordinary items. In fact, you can view it also as the accounting performance of the operations of a company, like if it were fully equity finance, because you do not take into account this. Okay? You do not take into account the interest. Okay, so it's an accounting view of the performance of the operations. Okay? This is what is it. And what it is not, when I read to make happy the shareholders or the financial performance and so on. No, I said the accounting performance. Because think to our example of yesterday. You remember our example of yesterday? I come back to my example of yesterday and I will upload today this file on Cloudline. You remember? Okay, a company with a nice EBIT, 400. Because here there is no interest, so the EBIT was 400. So from an accounting performance, from an accounting point of view, the performance was quite good. However, the company lost some cash. And so what is important from a financial point of view is to be sure that your company is able to generate more cash in than cash out from your operations. And it is not because it has a profit or a positive EBIT or EBITDA, whatever, that it has a positive cash flows. You see here, the cash flows is negative. Okay? So when you operate as a manager, what do you want? You do not want to have just a nice profit. You want to be sure that you get more money, right or not? And to make happy the shareholders. Okay. So then we are ready to be aware and to understand this. Now, yesterday I asked you another thing. I asked you to comment this sentence, if you remember. On a balance sheet, on the left-hand side, nothing is right. On the right-hand side, nothing is left. So, what I suggest, just to enter into the discussions, once again, I will divide you in groups, and you have 2 minutes to discuss this point. And once again, as before, you have the writer, you define the writer of your group, and the writer has to put the comment in the chat. Okay? So, 3 minutes.
Hello.
Hello. Cái này mình không hiểu câu hỏi lắm.
Thì cô giải thích cái câu đó
Thực ra
vậy.
là không hiểu
Thầy
cái
nói
bài
mình
luôn chứ không phải
comment
không
cái
phải
câu
câu
đó.
hỏi ạ.
On the balance sheet, nothing on left side is right, nothing on right side is left. Câu này hồi tối hôm anh Văn đã nhấn trong group rồi, xong tụi em đều không hiểu là nó nói cái gì cả.
Cái từ left bên cái vế thứ hai mình đoán là còn thừa đó. Cái left đó là left over. Chứ không phải là left trái phải đâu. Còn cái từ right nó có thể là từ trái phải.
Tại bên phải bên trái của balance sheet là assets với liability.
Đúng rồi.
Đúng rồi.
Quan điểm của em đó là cái chữ left đó là không còn gì ở lại, tại bởi vì nhiệm vụ của mình đó là mình lấy toàn bộ tất cả những thứ bên phải để mà mình đi đầu tư, cho nên rốt cuộc đó là maximize tất cả những thứ gì bên phải để đi đầu tư, cho nên tất cả những thứ bên phải á, thì sẽ không còn gì ở lại hết. Tại vì tiền mà nếu mà mình chỉ để đó mà mình không đi đầu tư thì nó không có sinh ra lợi. Còn mà cái chữ right á, nothing is right á, cảm giác của em đó là giống như kiểu đó là tất cả mọi thứ mà bên trái nó đều có thể thay đổi được. Tại bởi vì ví dụ giống như kiểu inventory thì hôm nay thì nó sẽ khác, ngày mai thì nó sẽ khác, nó sẽ thay đổi phụ thuộc vào thời điểm. Cho nên đó là mình sẽ chỉ có thể làm cái balance sheet ở tại một thời điểm thôi. và tất cả những cái đó nó có thể thay đổi. Còn mà những thứ mà bên tay phải á, thì nó sẽ là đúng, nợ là nợ. Dạ đó là quan điểm của em, đó là chữ left với chữ right.
Cái left bên phải là không còn thừa đúng không, left over đúng không? Còn,
Ý là cái bên phải là toàn bộ cái cash value. Ý anh Huy là phải mang đi đầu tư hết, ý là phải cho dòng tiền nó chạy rồi đúng không, chứ không có được.
Nghĩa là left đó là, tại thực chất đó là ví dụ giống như kiểu capital, đó là tiền của nhà đầu tư vô, thì mình đâu có thể để tiền của nhà đầu tư đó được, mình bắt buộc phải mua tài sản, mình bắt buộc phải mua này mua kia, thì coi như là không còn gì ở lại hết rồi. Đó, nothing left đó là không còn gì ở lại, ngay cả là tiền mà mình mua mình cũng phải đi đầu tư mà, chứ không thôi đó là làm sao mình trả được lãi. Dạ đó, cái chữ left đó là leftover, giống kiểu anh Thịnh nói, đó là không còn gì ở lại hết, tất cả đều tiền đó là đều để đi đầu tư hết rồi.
Còn bên trái là chữ right đó, đúng nghĩa là chữ đúng đúng không? Không có gì đúng hết đúng không?
Dạ đúng rồi, cái quan điểm của em bây giờ em không biết cái chữ right đó là mọi người có ý nghĩa nào khác không?
Cái bên phải thì mình thấy rõ, mình thấy ổn với hàng. Còn bên trái thì mình cũng chưa hiểu lắm, thật sự mình cũng chưa hiểu lắm.
So once again, if you can write in the chat quickly your thoughts on the left hand side.
Yes.
So if you can write.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so on the left-hand side, many items are non-cash related and slow to be generated into cash, such as long-term assets. Okay, and on the right side, source of funds are maximized to fund the business, including these items to be paid off. Okay. Yes, in fact, let's take an example. Let's take an example. That's the idea, in fact. And why? And I like very much this question. Why? Because it allows us to understand what is accounting about and what it is not. Accounting, in fact, what it is for the, in fact, the basic idea is to give some information to third parties and to define your tax basis, but based on some principles. And if you do not understand the principles behind, you are not able to understand and to interpret the financial statements. Okay? And just to speak, okay, my total assets is this amount, and then this is the value of the company, or what is the value of the assets, is completely wrong. Let's try to understand. Of course, the sentence is in a provocative way. It's in a provocative way, but it has a lot of meanings. Okay, you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay, and let's take a pen, and you have your balance sheet. Okay, you have the balance sheet. Okay, so you remember, what do you have on the right hand side? What do you have? You have the sources. You remember the sources.
Ba mày hỏi
And the sources, you have equity,
chọn cái nào á.
basically, and debt. And when you fund your company, when you have new equity, new debt, yes, is cash. But one after, maybe you have expense the cash. Okay, you have expense the cash. Why? For investments, for instance. Okay, investments or current assets, for instance, current. So investments, invest. Okay, and maybe also in current assets like the inventories, for instance, or the receivables. Okay, let's assume you're a company with a car fleet. And you have a car fleet. Okay, you have cars. And the cars, for instance, let's assume, for instance, you have 1,000 cars at 25,000 each cars, $25,000. So how much is it? It's 25 million. Okay, it's a huge amount. 25 million. Okay, so let's assume let 25 million. Let's assume you depreciate the cars over 5 years. What is the book value after 5 years? No. What is the book value after 5 years?
0.
It depends on
the book value will be 0 if you depreciate over 5 years.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we depreciate over 5 years. So after 5 years, in year 5, okay, year 5, the book value will be 0. Let's assume that you want to sell the cars because you want to replace your car fleet. Does that mean that you will sell them at 0? No. Maybe on average, I don't know, on average, each car has on average a value of 8,000. And in fact, the market value is maybe 8 million. Okay. And so you see 8 million is quite different from 0. Okay. And so there is a huge difference between the market value and the book value. There is a disconnection. And so when we say nothing is right in a provocative way, why? Because it's recorded at the book value and not at the market value. Is it clear? Okay, so be aware. Huh? Okay, so these ratios, I will go quickly and I will ask you to view this, to learn this by yourself for next week, and we will discuss this. Okay, but basically, I will go quickly, is to show you that the return on equity, the return on equity is the net income over the equity. Net income over equity. If the net income over the equity is 20%, okay, what does it mean? 20%, what I will tell you, maybe it's something a bit naive, is a bit easy, okay, but especially for the people, what I tell here is if you have some, I would just to check if I record. In fact, no, sorry. I have to record. I know it's recorded. Yes, it's recorded, sorry. Okay, it's recorded. So 20% is like 20 over 100. So it means that for each 100 put by the shareholders in the company, the profit is 20. That's the idea. When you interpret a ratio, put always like this. For 100 of equity, accounting value, you have a profit of 20, accounting profit. The return on asset is the same, but in the denominator, you do not have equity. S is shareholder equity. Asset, okay, for instance, if you have let's say a net income of 20, but asset 200, okay, so it is 10%. 10%. 10%, what is it? It means for each 100 of assets, you are able to generate a profit of 10. Okay? And then we can split, in fact, the return on equity into the return on assets and what we name the leverage. Okay, so in fact, look, return on equity is what is it? The return on equity is the net income over equity. And we can split it as the net income over the total assets times the total assets over equity. Okay, so total assets, you see, you can simplify and you have the net income over equity. And so the split of the net income over equity is, this is the return on assets, and this is the leverage. All this is explained in my documents. Huh? The leverage. What is the leverage? The leverage is an indicator to tell me to what extent I rely on debt to finance my company. I repeat, is an indicator telling me to what extent I rely on debt to finance my company. The easiest way to measure it would be, debt over total liability. For instance, if this ratio debt over total liability is 60%, the meaning is it means that my debt represents 60% of the sources of fundings. But this ratio doesn't fit here. And then we use another measure of leverage. You know, it's like to measure a distance. A distance I can measure in kilometers, in meters, in miles, and so on. I will have different numbers, but I will always measure the same thing. Okay, and now I would like to show you on the leverage. So the leverage, which is the total assets of total asset over equity. Okay. This is, I would like to show you that it's a measure of the leverage. So let's assume it's 2. Why not 2? So 2, what is it? 2 is 2/1, for instance. So it means for an equity of 1, I can finance 2 of assets. So meaning that my debt is 1. Now, if it's 10, for instance, the ratio, the meaning is 10/1. So it means for an equity of 1, I have a debt of, so first, if I have an equity of 1, sorry, I have total assets of 10. So my debt is 9. So the higher the ratio, the higher the level of debt in comparison to equity. So it's a measure of the leverage, to what extent I rely on debt to finance my company. Okay. We can show it in another way. Total assets over equity is the same as the total liabilities over equity. Total liabilities is equity plus debt. Over debt, over equity, sorry. So equity over equity is 1 plus debt over equity. So the higher the ratio, the higher the level of debt in comparison to the equity. So it measures the extent the company relies on to finance itself. Okay? So, and now the total assets, the total asset can be split itself in these two ratios. The net income over the revenues, which is the profit margin, and the revenues over the assets. So this is explained in the syllabus. Okay? You have a syllabus on the ratios. So I will not comment more. Here is really to give you some hints. Okay? I would like to go today a bit faster, just to give you some points to allow you to better understand the documents. So please read the documents for next time. And then we will illustrate the two cases, so Gilbert Lumber and the accounting detective, to allow you to integrate all the concepts. This I will come back with you next time. I will come back on this. This also will come back. We will discuss this also together next time. We will discuss some ratios also together next time. This we will discuss next time. And today, what I would like to do with you is to discuss already the liquidity ratios. All the other ratio we will discuss, all the other ratios we will discuss. Next time. So for this, what I suggest before starting to discuss the liquidity ratio, before I suggest to have a small break. Okay, let's have a small break, and we'll go on with the liquidity ratios. So it's 2:25. I suggest to start again at 2:35. No, 2. So in your time it's 7. Sorry. Let's start again at 7:35. Okay, in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes.
Yes.